Kathy took a deep breath of fresh winter air. She had asked Scott to talk outside the precinct, mostly because she wanted to avoid the police chief. She was worried he might still be upset about past blunders, like when he had ignored her tips and 2 banks were robbed as a result. She had called him out for it in front of his men, a decision that had not been well received, but was well deserved. She let out a small laugh upon remembering the man's flustered expression. The chief wasn't a bad guy, but he could hold a grudge. It was after that incident that she had met Scott, a newbie at the time. He'd been the only officer to pay any heed to the radio chatter her bugs provided. With his trust and her intel, a number of small-time criminals had been easily arrested. After the Blue Shadow entered the ranks, that number increased to include some real big-time felonry. With a few more steps, Kathy reached the park. She had expected to be early, but to her surprise, Scott was already there. A bright smile lit up her face as she saw him hoist up a large snowball and plunk it on top of 2 larger ones.
"Need any help?"
she asked, as he began adding details to the snowman. He looked away from his lopsided masterpiece and smiled at her.
"I'm pretty much done,"
he said.
"Just need to add the finishing touch."
He picked up a red knit hat that was slightly tattered on one end, and that was lying at his feet. "There," he said after adorning the snowman with the cherry-colored accessory.
"I found this over by the benches. I figure it might as well be put to good use." "It looks great,"
Kathy decided.
"It really fits his head."
Scott took a few steps back to admire his handiwork.
"Well,"
he chuckled,
"I didn't want him to get cold."
Kathy laughed. The happy, gentle sound caught up the detective's full attention. He smiled.
"You didn't call me up to talk about snowmen, though, did you?" "No, but—"
Kathy caught a glimpse of something sparkling in the sunlight behind him.
"It's sort of similar."
Following her gaze.
"Similar?"
She motioned for him to follow, and they walked a few meters to the edge of the park. An immaculate icy sculpture of a woman stood before them. The figure's features were impressive. Her clothing, though solid, had a great sense of motion. The scarf that draped about her frozen shoulders was so expertly crafted that every tassel was clearly defined and separate from its neighbors. Kathy took note of the statue's face. The expression was sleepy, almost peaceful. It was a welcome change from the pained, frigid faces she'd seen the day before.
"These are the sculptures that have you worried?"
The detective knit his brow.
"Yes,"
Kathy answered.
"Have you seen the ones by the docks?"
Scott shook his head.
"I haven't heard anything about the docks, but I saw a couple more of these on my way over here." "How many?" Maybe 3 or 4. Why?"
Kathy pulled photos of the dock statues from her bag and offered them to the detective.
"Do any of those faces look familiar to you?"
Scott squinted and studied the photographs.
"Yeah,"
he said after a minute.
"This one here."
He held up a photo.
"I believe it's a depiction of a man on the police's missing persons wall,"
Kathy said, not revealing her reasoning. He looked from Kathy to the photo, and then to the sculpture next to him.
"You know, you might be right. This one looks familiar too, now that I think about it."
Scott narrowed his eyes and examined the sculpture's face. Kathy watched him.
"What do you think?"
He scratched his head.
"I think I should give Howard a call. He's in charge of records and has a filing system going back more than 30 years. If these do match any missing people, he'd be the one to know."
Scott got his phone and dialed. Kathy waited patiently while he spoke to the officer. Records officer.
"Well,"
he said after ending the call,
"Howard's on his way down here. He wants to get photos of this one and the others I saw earlier. Can I keep these?"
He raised up the photos she'd given him.
"Of course."
Kathy nodded.
"I guess I'd better get going. Will you let me know if Howard learns anything?"
"Sure thing." Scott paused.
"Hey, Kathy?"
"Yes?"
He hesitated.
"I know I've asked before, but are you sure you don't want to join the force? For real, I mean. Like, in a formal capacity?"
Kathy gave him a discerning look.
"Now, Scott, could I keep spying on the bad guys if I was a real cop?"
No.
He answered, half amused.
No, you couldn't. But I don't know anything about that now, do I?
They both smiled, said their farewells, and parted ways. Kathy pulled up her phone. It rang into the layer computer.
I've spoken with Scott. He says he recognized the sculpture in the park. It looks like someone from the missing person wall. He's having the records officer look into it for him. Meanwhile, he's going to officially look into the other sculptures we found for their faces as well.
Adam raised an eyebrow at Night Shadow, who let out a slight smile in response. Scott, eh? Well, good. Keep us informed. Our facial recognition has also found matches, so this will be good for them to investigate so as to put the heat on whoever is doing this, and possibly flush them or their plans into the open if anything is nefarious. Kathy blushed ever so slightly, then hung up. Adam grinned and pulled a jacket over his suit. Kathy was about to place her phone back in her pocket when it suddenly rang again. She saw the number wasn't familiar, but was feeling rather feisty after being called out for her familiarity with Scott. And she decided to let the scam caller know how she felt about having her time wasted. But when she clicked to receive the call, a familiar voice was on the other end.
Hey, Kathy. Marco. I got your number from Richie. I hope you don't mind. Oh, hi. No, I don't mind. I was about to let you know my car's extended warranty is impossible since I don't own one.
Marco laughed aloud very heartily, as he did the night all three of them were out. Kathy thought she heard it echo.
That's really funny, Kathy. By the way, what are you up to? Oh, just building a snowman in the park while discussing business. I can see that. I meant tonight. Wait, you can see? Sure, I'm right over here.
Kathy, rather surprised, suddenly looked around and found a waving man holding a phone some distance from her on the edge of the park.
It's a wonderful snowman. The hat looks like one I own. Thinking of me? I'm kidding. But speaking of which, Kathy, I know we just met, but would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow night?
Kathy wasn't sure what to say at first, but then she recalled how kind Marco was to Richie, and his performance on the ice, and how handsome he was, and...
I'd love to. Marco, 6 p.m. good? I'll meet you at the Italian place on the corner from the theater. Oh, okay, sure. Then it's a date. Until then...
And he hung up. Kathy found she was a little beside herself. She hadn't been asked out on a date in quite a while. She wasn't awfully particular about keeping up her appearance much, at least not as much as the other girls chasing boys rather than criminals. And with all that time crime-fighting took up, it wasn't like she was waiting around the local malt shop dancing to be seen. She turned to get one last look at Marco on the edge of the park, but he wasn't there.